Almost 30 years have passed, and somehow the biggest mystery in hip-hop still refuses to stay buried. Think about that for a second. Millions of people have heard the theories. Countless documentaries have been made. Names have been dragged into the spotlight over and over again. Yet here we are, still asking the same question. What really happened to Tupac Shakur on that night in Las Vegas? For years, the case lived in the world of rumors. Everybody seemed to have a version of the story. Some blamed gang rivalries. Others pointed toward record label conflicts. Some claimed powerful figures were involved behind the scenes. But rumors are one thing. A courtroom is another. And that's exactly why this moment feels different. For the first time, a man is actually standing trial in connection to Tupac's M*rider. Keefe D has become the central figure in a case that many people thought would never reach this stage. Families waited. Fans waited. Investigators waited. Nearly 3 decades later, old wounds have been ripped open again. But here's the part people keep overlooking. The closer this case gets to trial, the messier the story becomes. One of the biggest reasons the trial has captured so much attention is because of allegations that have followed the case for years. Allegations involving Sean, Diddy, Combs. To be clear, Diddy has repeatedly denied any involvement in Tupac's death, has never been convicted in connection with the case, and the claims remain heavily disputed. But that hasn't stopped old interviews from resurfacing. In some of those interviews, Keefe D discussed an alleged conversation involving a reported $1 million offer. According to his account, someone else brought up the number first. But in other parts of the discussion, details appeared to shift. That's where people started noticing contradictions. And once contradictions enter the picture, every statement gets examined under a microscope. The public reaction was immediate. Social media exploded. Comment sections filled with theories. Some viewers believed long-standing rumors were finally being validated. Others argued that decades-old stories shouldn't automatically be treated as facts. And that's exactly the problem. The closer people look, the harder it becomes to separate confirmed information from speculation. But then another name started appearing again and again. Eric "Zip" Martin. For years, Zip has floated around the edges of conversations connected to the case. Never quite at the center. Never completely out of the picture either. According to various interviews and claims made over the years, Zip allegedly served as a connection between different people involved in the story. And that's where things become even more complicated. Some accounts suggested there was supposed to be money moving through certain channels. Other accounts challenged those claims entirely. Different witnesses remembered different details. Different interviews produced different versions. What makes this so fascinating is that nobody seems to agree on the same timeline. One person says one thing. Another person says something completely different. And somehow both insist they're telling the truth. As the trial moved forward, attention shifted toward another major issue. Keefe D's own words. Years ago, he participated in interviews. He also released a memoir containing detailed accounts connected to the events surrounding Tupac's death. Prosecutors now appear to be using portions of those statements as part of their case. But Keefe D's current position has created another layer of controversy. His defense has reportedly argued that previous statements shouldn't automatically be treated as factual admissions. That has left observers asking a simple question. If earlier stories weren't accurate, which version is? The old version? The new version? Or neither? That's the question hanging over the entire courtroom. Because when someone tells multiple versions of a story across many years, every detail suddenly matters. And that's where things started getting really uncomfortable. As witnesses began taking the stand, the trial shifted into a completely different gear. One testimony led to another. One memory triggered another dispute. One answer created 3 new questions. Among the most talked about moments were disagreements surrounding events connected to the aftermath of the MGM incident before the SH-00 ting. Witnesses described tensions, conflicts, and retaliation fears that allegedly existed at the time. But even inside the courtroom, emotions started boiling over. At certain points, exchanges became tense. Witnesses pushed back. Attorneys challenged details. Frustration became impossible to hide. And here's what makes it so important. The jury isn't just hearing facts. They're watching reactions. They're seeing who appears confident, who appears uncertain, who changes their story, and who refuses to back down. Then came one of the most emotional moments of the proceedings. Keefe D himself became visibly frustrated. The issue wasn't directly about the allegations being discussed. Instead, concerns were raised regarding family safety and personal information being exposed publicly during the trial process. The situation quickly drew attention because it reminded everyone of something important. This isn't just a historic case. These are real people sitting in a courtroom dealing with consequences that stretch far beyond legal arguments. The atmosphere suddenly felt heavier. What started as a decades-old investigation was becoming a present-day conflict affecting families, reputations, and lives. And just when it seemed the trial couldn't become any more complicated, another familiar voice entered the conversation. Suge Knight. Calling from prison, Suge weighed in on the trial and immediately challenged parts of the narrative being presented. His comments added yet another layer to a story already overflowing with competing versions of events. According to Suge, some individuals involved aren't providing the full picture. He questioned certain claims, disputed specific characterizations, and suggested that key pieces of context may still be missing. Whether people agree with him or not, one thing is undeniable. When someone who was sitting beside Tupac on the night of the SH-00 ting speaks, people pay attention. And that's exactly what happened. Suddenly, the conversation expanded again. Old rivalries resurfaced. Old accusations returned. Old names found themselves back in headlines. Almost as if 1996 had never really ended. What's remarkable about this entire case is that after nearly 3 decades, certainty still feels out of reach. Some evidence points one direction. Some testimony points another. Certain facts are documented. Other claims remain disputed. And every time it feels like the mystery is finally clearing up, another contradiction appears. That's why so many people are watching this trial so closely. Not because they expect every question to be answered, but because this may be the closest the public has ever come to hearing all the competing stories examined in the same place at the same time. Yet even now, the biggest question remains unanswered. When this trial finally ends, will it bring the closure people have been waiting for since 1996? Or will it leave behind even more questions than answers?